So, good morning, everyone. I'm really happy that we have amazing sessions lined up from the Delhi user group. And we are really doing very excited about this sessions. And we have amazing sessions lined up. And you can see the full schedule. Let me show the full schedule. We have Clavin, then we have Abhijit. A lot of amazing speakers are here. And just want to share with you that we'll be recording the sessions. All the sessions are recorded. You can watch it towards the end as well, all the things. And the recording will be posted after 1 week. Something to take note about that. Okay. And any questions you have, we will give a lot of options for you. What you can ask to the speaker, some questions. But what I have noticed for a lot of speakers, right, they are very enjoyable and also like the sessions, and we don't want to break the momentum. So when they end the sessions, maybe after 55 minutes, you can ask questions and unmute yourself. But you can ask questions on the team chat as well. Now, what I want to ask you that I will ask Clavin. How are you doing, Clavin?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah. I'm absolutely fine. Thanks. And a long time now not met you in any sessions, but this is a good time to talk to you about that. So, just want to give you what you're sharing is with us for this global AI event today for us. In
Okay,
short.
so we are going to go ahead and create custom actions. So custom actions for Power Automate Desktop, and we are going to go ahead and infuse AI in it. That's
Awesome. Great. Yeah. So the screens is all yours. You can just share a screen and then give all the goodness which we have shared with the community. Thank you. We can see your
perfect.
screen.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. And let me share my screen. So again, let me quickly introduce the session. So hello everyone and a very warm welcome to the AI Power Bootcamp Delhi edition. I said AI Power Bootcamp because, when it comes to power, we are going to infuse Power Automate with AI. Okay. And that's what we are going to build. So the session that I'm going to talk about is building AI powered custom actions. My name is Clavin. I'm a Microsoft Business Applications MVP and a solutions engineer for PSPDF Kit. So that being said, let's move to the next slide. What is Azure OpenAI? So Azure OpenAI is a form of service that Azure provides, which gives you access to AI models such as ChatGPT, ChatGPT 4, 3, Codex, Wally, and Whisper. So Azure OpenAI services actually give you a REST API, which you can access in your applications. And because it's a REST API, you can invoke it with the programming language of your choice, right? So that's the beauty of Azure OpenAI. I can talk about Azure OpenAI the whole day, but there are sessions out there which you can see. I know that Aroh also has done few sessions, so maybe he can drop some links about Azure OpenAI and you can review it. So that being said, before starting this session, let's talk about the prerequisite. Now, this is about Power Automate and Power Automate Desktop, but this is mainly focused towards pro developers. So when I say pro developers, you need to have some background in programming language. Okay, some background. I'll not say a lot, but at least a little. Then you need to have some IDE installed so that you can do the development. And the IDE that we need is Visual Studio. Then you need to have .NET Framework 4.7.2 SDK or later. Power Automate Desktop Actions installed or Power Automate Desktop and the Actions SDK installed. So that being said, that's about the prerequisites. So before we move ahead, let's quickly go ahead and look at Azure OpenAI. So what you see on my screen is the Azure portal, right? In the Azure portal, you have got Azure OpenAI services. If you click on it and you click on create like this, and if you cannot fill in this form, it means that you do not have access to Azure OpenAI. It also means that you need to fill in a form and request Microsoft the access to it. Azure OpenAI is currently available only for approved enterprises and customers. So go ahead and fill in this form if you have not done already, and they should provide you access. Some caveats out here would be like, when you fill in this form, do not go ahead and use a Gmail, Outlook, or a Hotmail account. I myself have seen people not getting approval if they go ahead and use the personal email address. So that's very, very important. Use your company domain and things should be fine. So that being said, you can fill in this form, but to save in some time out here, I have already provisioned an Azure OpenAI service. So this is how the service looks like. However, I told you that it has models, right? So where are the models? The models will be under managed deployment. So under managed deployment, we have models. So let's click on managed deployment and let's quickly see the models that Azure OpenAI has to offer. So as the screen loads, you see in the background that it has chat, completion, daily, assistant, right? You also see that there's something known as deployments. So what is a deployment? A deployment is provisioning the model in your Azure OpenAI Studio or in your environment. So I clicked on create new deployment, and here you see in the drop down you can provision the model of your choice. For example, if you want to create images, you can go ahead and use DALL-E. For chat completion, you can use ChatGPT, right? So depending on that, you can select the model and do the deployment. Again, the deployment of model might take a little bit of time, so I have done it upfront out here. So what are we going to use? We are going to use the ChatGPT 335 Turbo model. Okay, so this is the model that we are going to go ahead and use. And what I want to do out here is I want to click on Open in Playground. Right, so this is the playground that you are going to go ahead and use. Now there are multiple options out here. We will look at the options and we will talk about it in a little bit of details. But the main thing that I want to highlight out here is the view code option. So Azure or Microsoft has provided sample code directly in the OpenAI service. Isn't that awesome? Right? You don't have to go ahead and go to the internet and search for it. In fact, it goes ahead and creates uh, code with reference to your deployment. So if you see the endpoint, the key is not shown, obviously, but you see the endpoint has been already added, your model name has already been added, etc., etc. And you get the programming languages of your choice. In this case, what I see is that we have a .NET or a C# code as well. So let's try to use this code real quick, right? So I'm going to go ahead and open Visual Studio, and we will try to go ahead and actually create a very basic console app. So if you're getting started with Azure OpenAI, this is how I would recommend you to, get started. So I'll click on New Project. I'll click on Console App. I will select Next. I will give my console app a name. So let me move a little bit back. So this is good. So console app 2. Let's use the default one and let's say create. At this point, Visual Studio will go ahead and create a console app for me. Now, once I go ahead and create the console app, I can go back to my Azure portal and try to copy this code. So let me try to copy this code and put it in out here, right? So first and foremost, red lines. Yes, that's expected. The reason being we have not gone ahead and installed the dependencies. Now, the first and foremost, what I'm going to do out here is to install the NuGet package, right? The namespaces itself do not resolve. So what next? So let's go ahead and sort that first. So I'm going to go ahead and click on manage NuGet packages, and I'm going to type in azure.openai. The first one that comes in the list is azure.ai.openai, and it's in pre-release. So if you don't find this, make sure that you have checked this box, right? I'm not going to use the latest and the greatest model. Let's go a little bit back and let's try to install it. Now, why am I doing that? Because I have seen problems with the latest model. And understand this, this is in pre-release. That means it's a beta of a beta, right? So go ahead and use something that has been tested for a little bit. So here you see now, as soon as I added the NuGet package, the error has gone away. So that's really awesome, right? That being said, let's go ahead and look at this code real quick. First and foremost, it's a REST API, so it has an endpoint. And let's say that we need to pass in the credentials. Now, to pass in the credentials, this is actually talking about Azure because it's an environment dot get environment variable. If it's in Azure, yes, it will work, but we need to run it in our local computer. In that particular scenario, we need to put in our key out here. But this is a live demo and I don't want to go ahead and expose my key. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, add new item. Right? Let me not get into the details. This can be done much better. For example, you can go ahead and maybe even use Key Vault, but I'll keep it simple and I'm going to go ahead and create a config file. Right? In the config file, I'm going to pass in a configuration which can help me store my password. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this on another screen and paste in the password so that it remains confidential. So I go here. Where will I find the password? This is the password. I'll quickly copy it and I will update the password here. Save my file. You don't see it, and that's good. Aroh, you don't see it, right? Or else, I'm trying to do that and people are seeing it. But I hope that people have not seen my top secret password out here. And, this is how I'm going to pass in my credentials. So that being said, we need to pass in the credentials, right? To pass in the credentials, we need to use the configuration manager. So we need to use a namespace known as system configuration. And I'm going to use this namespace to get my key. So the key that I'm going to get is key 0. It gives me an error. So what would be the error? So I need to go ahead and install it from the package manager. So again, let's quickly go ahead and try to do that. Okay, so here is the package. Now, another thing, if you guys have seen the key, it doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and delete the deployment after this particular session. Okay, so that's another thing. So here you see that I have provisioned it. And at this point, if everything has worked as expected, this should go ahead and try to give me a chat, a completion. Now, first and foremost, it gives me an error. It tells me the key value cannot be empty. So again, I'll go back and try to check my key once, right? So I know that I might have messed this up because when you try to do something and it doesn't work, it means that Teams is coming in between. So let me just go in here. That's okay. So stop. Let me do right click and build. Let me not directly go ahead and start it. And let me add a breakpoint here maybe. So let's see. Mhm. It's trying. Okay, so this time I didn't get an error. But you see, the response is basically coming in as null. So that's okay. But you can go ahead and get a basic provisioned out here. So let me go ahead and try to log in some response so that I can quickly test. So here I can go back and stop this. So let me quickly review the code. So I'm going ahead and doing an OpenAI. I'm going ahead and using the chat completion, the new chat completion message. Okay. And let me actually change this message to something more meaningful like this. Then you have the temperature, you have the nucleus. We'll talk about it in a little bit of details. And here, if I go down, I get this and I get the response. Okay, let me try to go ahead and maybe log in the response and let's go ahead and see what it returns. So again, no, this is what I see. It's trying to build it and it gives me an answer. That's the most important part out here. It tells me the largest populated country in the world is China, right? So that's the correct answer, maybe. But let's go ahead and try something else. Let's say lyrics for James Blunt's song, You're Beautiful. Okay, that's the only thing that came in my head. So that's why I typed that. So let's go ahead and see the output. So this is a chat completion model. Understand this. And what we are going to go ahead and see is that you have got a response and the whole lyrics is out here, right? So yeah, that's good. So our basic .NET code works. Now, why did I show you this is the first thing, right? Because I'm going to copy this code and keep it handy and use it in my Power Automate desktop uh, code, right? What I'm going to create in some time. So that being said, this works. This is good. So the basics are in place. And let me close this. And let me quickly go back to the slide and let's talk about the basics, right? So we had the prerequisites. So the first thing that came up was the max number of tokens before temperature, right? I don't have a slide for it. But what is a max token? A max token is what you include in the prompt. If you're going ahead and chatting continuously, you need to include even the history of it. Okay, that's what the max token is. The next thing is temperature. When it comes to the temperature, temperature is basically referred to as a parameter in ChatGPT, which can go ahead and help you not generate randomness. But yeah, it will generate randomness in response from 0 to 1, where if you set in 0, the randomness will be low. If you set it to 1, the randomness will be high. For example, you ask a question to it, what is the color of the sun? It might tell you once, it might tell you orange, and the second time it might tell you yellow. But if you need the similar answers, I would recommend keep it at the least randomness. But keeping it at the least randomness, understand this, affects the creativity. The next is nucleus sampling. Nucleus sampling, again, is responsible for the responses, but here comes probability. So nucleus factoring determines the size of the subset of the nucleus and the distribution of the words. Again, if you set it to 0.1, it will only consider the tokens in the top 10%. However, if you put it 1.0, it will allow all the tokens. What does it affect? Again, it affects the creativity. You can either use nucleus sampling or temperature. Okay, you should not use both of them, or you cannot use both of them. Next is frequency penalty. The frequency penalty is the words that get repeated in your output. So repetition of words is something that you don't like. You can go ahead and the penalize or give the penalty to your OpenAI module, and less clarity sometimes, but you get more creativity. For example, let's say that it will use different words, right? For example, let's say that if you're talking about something like cold, it will tell you it was frosty and cold. So frosty and cold are almost the same words, but it will use different words when it gives you the responses. So low number does not penalize repetition. Again, it's from 0 to 1. Low number does not penalize. Higher the number, it goes ahead and penalizes. So that being said, now comes the real session, right? We build some basic .NET code, and now we are going to take that .NET code and put it into a Power Automate desktop custom action, which, my friends, you're going to give it to your RPA developers. I'll again repeat, which you're going to give to your RPA developers to go ahead and be more creative in their work and also reduce their efforts. So what is Power Automate Custom Actions? So the Power Automate Custom Actions is developed by your organization to upload is developed by your organization's developers, and they are uploaded to your Power Automate in the cloud. I'll show you that in a minute. Right? To develop this, you need a Power Automate desktop to use it and an SDK to develop it. Through the SDK, custom modules can be created and be used. So that being said, let me go back here and let's see, where do you find custom actions, or where do you upload the custom actions first in the cloud. So here you go into the more, and here you see custom actions. Once you create your custom actions, sign it, package it, and re-sign the cab, you will go ahead and upload it here. Once you upload it here, you can go ahead and use it in your Power Automate desktop application, right? So that is what we are going to do. So we are going to create a module or an action, package it, sign it, and use it in Power Automate desktop. Okay. So that being said, let's quickly get into the slide once, and let's look at what we are going to do. First, we are going to create a custom action. Then we are going to create a self-sign certificate. Understand, you need a code signing certificate to do this. You will sign the custom module. You will package it into a cabinet file and then sign the cabinet file as well. Once it is done, then you will go ahead and use it in your Power Automate desktop, or it will be usable in your Power Automate desktop. Okay, so that's good. This is what your Power Automate desktop should look like, right? So I'm going to minimize the two screens and I'm going to go into Visual Studio right now. Again, I will open Visual Studio. I'm using Visual Studio 2022. And here I'm going to create a new project. I already have the SDK installed, so that's the reason why I see it. I'm going to use the sample project. I'm going to click on next. It goes into here. So let me put it somewhere else. Let me put it here. And let me name it. Today is the 16th, so let's name it 16. Module 16 is going to be my name. So I'll just say module ID AI 16, right? I'll not create a test project and I'll say create. Now, I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritties of this, but I'm going to show you the entire demonstration. If you want to go ahead and get into the very basics as to how did I set up the SDK, how did I set up the environment as a whole, I have a tutorial series and I'll share it with you at the end of this session, right? So this is how our project looks like, and the real magic happens in the action1.cs file. If you look at the action1.cs file, you see first the namespaces, 3 namespaces out there. One is system, one is Microsoft Power Platform dot Power Automate dot Desktop dot Actions SDK, and the attributes, right? So that is what it is. Now, that being said, let me quickly go ahead and tell you at least the bare basics of what you need to know about the Actions SDK. So first and foremost, here you go ahead and see the on line number 7. Okay, let me actually reference line number 7 so that you guys can follow along. So line number 7, you see that there's an action ID, which should be unique. Then there is an order, right? If you have multiple actions in your module, the order comes into consideration. What should be your action's name? What should be the name of your action, right? So I'm going to name my action Open API action. Okay, I'll just name it Open API action 16. Because I don't remember if I have already used Azure OpenAI action previously. Then you need to give your action a description. Now you see this when I create the module and start using it in my solution, in my Power Automate desktop, right? When I create RPA or bots or so-called flows, right? I'm going to give this a meaningful description. Give it a meaningful description. You put in little efforts out here, it will go ahead and help your, your developers a lot to understand what the action does. Try to be as descriptive as possible. Now, that being said, if I talk about line number 13, the line number 13 is what you pass inside your Power Automate desktop. So what do you pass inside is
Clavin, can you
mhm,
increase the font? It's a pretty small font. It's possible.
okay, I'm trying to do that. It's getting
Okay.
smaller,
Yeah,
but
looks okay now. Thank you.
okay, okay. So here you see it's here, right? I'll be sharing this code with you guys as well. I'm going to go ahead and, as Aroh mentioned, you'll have the recording, you'll have the code samples and the GitHub repo of whatever that we created. Okay. So I understand the code is a bit small. I'm trying to do it, but it's. Let me try to. Okay, let's try to make it a little bit bigger. Okay, for some reason it's becoming smaller rather than bigger, but now you should have it much bigger, right? Now I think, is it good, Aroh, now? I try to zoom in as much
Yes,
as I
yes,
can. Yeah,
much better.
perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect. So, my mouse is misbehaving. That's what happens during the demos, when your demo gods are not happy with you. But hopefully this all goes as expected. So here you see, you have the input argument out here. Input argument, I'll again repeat, what is the thing that you need to input? So what you want to do, you want to provide it a prompt, right? I put 2 prompts out there. Now, if you want to know about prompting, again, I've seen Aroh's session that he did for, I think, Pune Tech Community. And he actually talks about what is prompts. Again, if you want to know more about it, you can go ahead and look at his session. Uh, but that being said, this is what I'm going to go ahead and prompt. That is, type in what is the lyrics for Kaho Na Pyara, maybe something like that, right? I'm going to prompt my flow out here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it here. Now, why am I doing this is because I also need to pass in a key, right? So I'm going to pass in a key of my Azure OpenAI deployment. I'm going to say input argument 2. I'm going to give it a description. Perfect. So here it is. That is good. That looks good. So I'm going to pass in a prompt. I'm going to pass in a key. Now that I have passed in a prompt and a key, I need to go ahead and look at the output. So what I'm going to do is I will go ahead and give this a friendly name instead of output argument. Let's say that we will say it's an intelligent output. At this point, I'll give it a very simple little description saying AI response. So my input arguments have been configured. My output arguments have been configured. That looks really, really good. Now, the next thing is, if you remember, if you have been observing closely, I told you one thing. I'm going to copy the code and keep it handy, right? Now, if you have not copied the code, it's still okay. You can go to your Azure and copy it, and you need to put in here. So this is what happens in the action execution, right? Inside the try block, you're going to go ahead and put in what needs to be done in the model. So give me a minute. I'm going to go into my Azure and I'm going to actually copy the code because if somebody has joined in late, they can also follow along. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this code. But firstly, I need to go ahead and install the prerequisite in my project. That is the NuGet package. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say manage NuGet package, browse, and I'm going to use the Azure OpenAI, right? Azure.ai.openai NuGet package. I'm going to go ahead and again use an old one because it's a pre-release, and I would like to rather use a pre-release which has been at least a little bit um, in the market for a little bit of time. So I have already copied the bits of Azure OpenAI. So this is firstly my namespaces. The namespaces are being added. If I go back out here, I can simply copy the code from here to here, right? And paste it in here, right? So this doesn't look good, but we will sort that out. So first things first, tab, tab, tab. Okay. Let's sort this thing out. So what does it tell me in the error? It tells me that I need to use an async process, right? But I'm not going to use an async process. In that case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create it synchronously, right? So I used a different type of method out here. That is the same method, but it will be executed synchronously, right? Again, this is going to be a problem. So it's not connected to my Azure environment directly. So what I'm going to do out here, I'm going to pass in the input parameter, which actually holds my key. So on line number 18, that is the input parameter, and its name is, sorry, on line number 19, it's input argument 2, right? I'm going to pass this in. So that's going to be the string that I'm going to pass. Now that I have passed in the string, let me see if I'm going ahead and forgetting something else. Yes. Where is the prompt? I've not given it the prompt yet. So I'm going to give the prompt out here instead of just asking what are you? Are you an AI model? I'm going to pass in input argument 1, which is on line number 16 as a prompt, right? Now, this is really, really awesome. However, if you remember, out here is just giving me the chat response. I need to go ahead and put this response and return it in Power Automate. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use input argument 1, and I'm going to go ahead and log in the response like this, right? Understand this, response gives you choices. I'm using the first choice out of it. And the choice has got message, and I'm using the message content, okay? So I think this is pretty much it. At this point, I can say that you have infused AI in your chatbot, right? And you can use the same technique to go ahead and infuse any AI models out there. So that being said, I'm going to try to build this. Build has succeeded. So that's good. Let's quickly go back to a slide for a minute and check. So we have created it, but we need to create a self-signed certificate to go ahead and sign it. It should be off code signing, right? So we have a module created. If I go here and if I click on Open in File Explorer, if I go into the bin debug 42472, what's the name of my module? Okay, module.module1.dll. So this is the module. I need to code sign this module. So to code sign this particular DLL, I need to go ahead and first create a self-signed certificate. So I'm going to open PowerShell ISE. I have opened it as an admin out here. So this is a clean little PowerShell ISE out here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a certificate, right? So the certificate needs a name. So I'm going to go ahead and create a certificate, and I'll say 16. Let's go ahead and add a date around it. And I'm going to paste in a script. right? So again, I'll give the script to you guys once you go ahead at the end of this session. That will be in my GitHub. So let's quickly look at the script. It goes ahead and creates a self-signed certificate, right? It creates a self-signed certificate, and then it's a type of code signing cert. It's exportable, and the hash algorithm is SHA-256. Okay, these are all default um, properties that I need to go ahead and pass while creating the certificate or while using the new self-signed certificate command. Once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and create a top secret password. In this case, it's going to be Clavin, right? But you will name it something well. And then I'm going to go ahead and export the certificate with the name such as, Global AI Certificate 16. Let's keep this thing similar, just to be sure, right? So this is good. And let me try to run it. So this should have created a certificate in the folder AI. So you see a certificate has been created. That's awesome. I'll click on the certificate. I'll use the crypto shell extension. I'll say just once. And next, I'm going to install the certificate on my local computer, right? I'll give it my top secret password, Clavin. I'll say enable strong private key protection. That's good. I will place this in the trusted root authorities. Click on next and I click on finish. At this point, it gives me this prompt. I'll say okay. It gives me another security prompt. And then it tells me, okay, the certificate has been imported. So that's really, really awesome. Now that the certificate has been imported, I need to go ahead and sign my module. So for this, I'm going to use the Visual Studio developer prompt. So just quickly open the develop. I'll just quickly open the developer prompt. It's here. But first, let's author this particular commandlet, right? I'm going to paste in a sample command again out here, which is going to be a signing tool. I'm using the signing tool to go ahead and, sign my particular module. So again, what does it need first? It needs the certificate path. I'm going to change it out here, right? And then it needs the DLL that I need to sign. So the DLL will be available in the folder, right? So if I say open in File Explorer, I thought that I had it open, but I cannot find it. So here it is. And here, what's the name of our module? Module.module1. Clavin, you should use never better naming conventions, or else you'll be confused one day. Or today, in fact, I am. Naming conventions are really important. I should have named it something better. So here it is, right? So this is the module that I'm going to go ahead and sign. I'm going to take this line of code and paste it in here, and I'm going to say enter. Right? It has successfully signed my particular DLL. The DLL is signed. That's awesome. Now, what next? We need to go ahead and package everything in a cabinet file. Perfect. We are going to do that as well. Now, before I get into that, I wanted to share something with you. Now, this is a very good article. It might not be complete as a whole, but I'm going to copy one script out here, right? So let me scroll down. Okay, so this is the script that I'm going to go ahead and use. Packaging everything in a cabinet file. I'll copy it. I'll go into the AI folder and I have created a makecap.ps1 file. Okay, I've created that. Now in that file, I'm going to go ahead and pass in few of the parameters and I'm going to again author it in front of you. I'm going to use makecap and here, my friends, I'm going to go ahead and, I need to package everything together. So let's go back into the folder. Copy this, understand this. The whole thing should be included all the DLLs should be packaged, right? Including the Azure. So, but we signed only one. We need to package the entire thing, and that's what we are going to go ahead and do. So, Azure OpenAI DLLs also need to be packaged. That's why I'm going to give it a folder path. Once done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to store it here. So let me store it here itself. Just say go here and store it. And I'll name this global AI, right? Global AI 16.cap. That looks good. Let me do a CD and let me go into that path. I don't want to get errors. Perfect. And I'm going to run this particular command. Let's try this. Perfect. So this has created a cap file. So if I go back out here, you see that it has created a cap file for me. Perfect, right? Now the final part of this. Now you need to sign the cap file again. Okay, so you need to sign the cap file again. I'm going to use the signing tool to sign the cap file again. Understand this. First sign the DLL, package the entire module into a cabinet file, and then sign the cap file as well, or else you're going to get an error. So I'm going to go ahead and use this. Now, if you are thinking, Clavin, what there's this command, again, as I told you, I have an entire tutorial series around it. So feel free to go ahead and watch it, right? I'm going to share that with you as well. But we don't have a lot of time. In fact, we might just finish on time if we are lucky. So here, and I think that is good. So I'm going to sign the entire cap file with my latest and greatest certificate. Okay, signing is done. So once the signing is done, what I can do is I can go into my Power Automate custom actions. Let me try to refresh this page. This doesn't look good. I need to upload it. I need to upload it to the cloud in order to use it in my desktop, right? So I'm going to go ahead and say upload. I'm going to browse. So AI 16, that's what it is, right? So that's the cap file. Say global AI 16 demo. Going to copy the same and put in the description, but you, my friends, always give a nice description to your particular, the modules. So your module has been uploaded successfully. Now that your module has been uploaded successfully, let's create a new flow. Let's give it a name, Global AI 16. That's good. And create. Come on, it's trying to create it. Now, this is the moment of truth. Just consider that even if one step goes wrong during packaging, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, and I clicked on see more actions, and here I see an action known as Global AI 16. It's trying to add it, fingers crossed. It has been added. It doesn't mean that it will work still, but we have gone through one thing. So this is my entire module, right? This is my entire module. And here I have the Azure OpenAI 16. So I need to pass it a prompt and I need to pass it a key. So again, let me quickly, maybe I'll set a variable to put in the key, and maybe then, just name this variable key. I'll save it. I'll take it to another screen and I'll try to set the key. So please bear with me. Perfect. So I have set the key and I have set it to sensitive. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my custom actions. So scrolling down, Global AI demo, Azure OpenAI action. Okay, guys, Anybody? I look in the chat once. Can you tell me your favorite song? Can somebody tell me your favorite song that we should ask and see if, if there's a way of doing it? Let's see. Let's see. Okay, nobody has a favorite song. Okay.
I have
What's
one.
okay? What's that,
Uh,
Sophia?
twice. What? Apa ya? Oh, sorry. Twice.
Can you type it out?
Oh, okay.
I really don't know what the.
Flower. Wallflower. Oh, okay, wallflower.
Okay, just type it in.
Wall. That's
Uh,
typo in.
it's wallflower, right? Wallflower. Okay. So I'll just say by twice and wallflower. Let's see if it's able to find it. I think wallflower is 2 words. I'll save it, right? And I'll try to run it. Again, fingers crossed. Let's see what comes out of it. Just thinking about it. Aha. So this is a moment of truth. It tells me the verse one. I might butcher the song. In the corner, I am standing alone, a wallflower. Is that the right song?
The song is apa ya? The song is using Korean language and
Okay.
English.
Okay. Okay. But you get my point, right? It might have tried to translate it. So, this is how you can use it. You're my friends, congratulations. You have created I don't know, you have created your first custom action and infusing AI. In fact, I should try this. Kaho Na Pyar Hai. It's a famous Hindi song. Let's see if we get output of this. So that being said, this is not only about songs. You can do much more. It is a chat completion model, and you will get more out of it. And here, my friends, it actually gives me a Hindi song translated in uh, English. So I think that's pretty much it. If there's any questions, let me look into the chat. Cab means a cabinet file. A cabinet file is usually used to go ahead and, package everything into one particular solution. If you think of this, we have a dependency, right? If I go out here, we also need to package the AI, the Azure.OpenAI DLL and other DLLs. So, to package it, we need to go ahead and package it in the cab file. Um, I think that's answered. I'll go back into my slide and quickly wrap it up. So we already did this. We uploaded into the environment and used the actions. And, it's done. And finally, thank you to the organizers for organizing the event, to the speakers who are going to follow, and to the AI community. Thank you, and the audience as well. I hope that
Hi.
you learned something new.
Hey, Clavin, this is Aroh here.
Uh-huh.
Again, I always love your sessions. I mean, something is a look forward to your sessions. Okay. And just want to, because I did a session last year in the
Mhm.
in-person meeting with around 200 people. I did the Power Apps, Power Automate with Azure
Mhm.
Functions. I go in deep in the Azure Functions, and people lost the track because they're not developers, right? So yeah, but the way you explained in a storyline and how it works, you beautifully explained the concepts. Right, I really appreciate the things. One question I have as well before we ask to questions, that the custom actions need some additional license or
Uh, is to use it locally. I think it's fine. I need to check on the licensing, but it needs an additional license. Sorry, I remember that. It needs an additional license.
okay, understand.
It
Yeah,
it comes as a premium.
it's a premium, right? Yeah, it's a
Yeah, it
okay.
comes as a premium. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you mentioned about the beta and preview, I just want to share with people who are in this call or people who are online. Never ever use the beta and preview. You can use for development. Never use it. I just tell you that I was doing a production thing deployment, and the team has deployed the preview versions in a Power Apps Power Automate, and it broke. in the production. So, and I was just helping them, but it was the in-house team which is they build it. So never ever do everything on production is very dangerous. Microsoft keep changing the things. Don't do it. That's something which I have faced it. I took a lot of 2-3 months to fix it out. But again, never use the preview version on the or the beta versions on production.
Yes, you should not use it, and if you use it, use a version which is at least
Stable.
tested, yeah, at least stable in the beta. So, why did I use this 5 version? Is might be a question to many of them, and I like to use the latest and greatest version. If I try to install it, right? First, let me first try to install this in my project. You will see that some namespaces and some methods do not give me an error, right? Again, I banged my head against the wall and finally found that the chat namespace has got some problems and it's a bug with the new release. The same project that I ran, I built everything in front of you, did not have a single error, right? Because I used the 5 version, the previous version of the beta. But here you see, as soon as I changed it to the latest version, you get this error. So this is a learning for everyone out here that I want to tell is, if you're using beta, go ahead and try to use a first do your research and see if the previous version of beta is stable, right? Very stable. Do put in a lot of efforts, put in a lot of time in testing in your QA, etc., and then only use it in production if you don't have an option. Okay, I'll again repeat. If you don't have an option at all, you have to use it. That means you have to go ahead and use it. But that's a live example that I showed you. This particular namespace, I don't know what happened to it. It just went away, or there is an error out here. So, and Microsoft will fix it. There's a question out here from Dinu. Extending functionalities, Power Automate action, including Excel. Yes, I've used it, but it really comes down to Excel as in extracting text and then sending it. So you need to be careful while prompting. There's something known as the max size in the prompt, right? So max prompt size, you need to be in that. So make sure that the main problem with completion is you need to extract the text, provide it a concise prompt, and then send it across. So it can be possible, but it's really one of the use cases may be converting CSV to JSON, right? That might be one of the use cases that you might want to use it. I've not tried it, but it should work. You can also go ahead and do, yeah, means that can be one of the things. Although it doesn't need AI, you can do that. Uh, any other questions? How can I sign up for Azure versioning concept in custom action if something goes wrong? Okay, that's interesting. Let's see. I don't see versioning options out here. Um, out here
Yeah,
in
that is
custom
main,
action.
right?
Mhm.
Where something in wrong, we can restore it.
Yeah, what I
Previous
do,
version.
Shiva, I'll tell you what
Hmm?
happens out here. This is a pro developer thing. I usually
Uh-huh.
use GitHub behind the scene to
Okay.
store my code in Visual Studio. I never go ahead and use this as a version control when it comes to writing pro code. I'll take this code that I wrote right now, right? I'll shift
Yep.
it to more 5 and I'll put it in GitHub such that
Mhm.
you guys can access it. And if I make any changes now, if I make some changes, once I know that this has been fixed, you will still have the latest code. So I don't use Power Automate to have version control over it. My particular thing is I use GitHub so that I can go
Yep.
back to a previous version, build it, and then upload it. Does
Okay.
Yeah.
that
In
answer
Power
your
Automate, we
question?
don't have.
Yeah.
Kevin, one question from Harsh about how we can sign up for the upper Azure OpenAI and is only for developer, for the development only.
For development only, you need to fill in the form. I also signed up for a developer only thing.
Yeah.
And my got approved. I filled in that form and it got approved. I put in my company domain though, saying that I'm going ahead and, developing for this company out here. So, that's how it worked out. I did not use my Gmail account. Aru, have you seen any pushbacks from Azure, from the Microsoft Team from your side?
No, nothing much on that. Yeah, no, on that.
Yeah, so it should be pretty straightforward. Fill in the form that I showed you, and you should be able to use it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Perfect.
again, thanks, Clavin. It's really, really interesting. Your session,
Mhm.
as I always look forward to your first session is there, so I was like really excited to that. So thank you so much. And then you can share your series you mentioned right previously.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That series you put into your team chat, and all the things which you have, please share it with us later on. Really thankful for your amazing session and really, really enjoyable session. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.